This meat mountain in front of me is going to become chili because my standard American diet sister-in-law loves my carnivore or keto chili more than any other chili she has ever had. And we are making a triple batch, and then I can take it over to her packaged up in meals because she's about to be a brand new mom and she needs some really good red meat for her diet to make her body feel good so she can produce milk, so she can do all the things a new mom has to do for their baby, and she doesn't have to do the work of trying to get it cooked. So we're gonna take some freezer meals to her, and I'm gonna show you how easy it is to make this chili. Now you can make it more keto, you can make it more carnivore, but regardless, I'm gonna show you the technique that I use to make thick, rich, amazing tasting chili that is her favorite above all of the canned or restaurants, anywhere chilies that she has ever had. So let's go ahead and throw this chili recipe together today in honor of my new nephew, Liam, who will be here today on Chris Cooking Nashville. So there's a couple of different ways you can do this chili. Now this is kind of a riff on a Cincinnati style chili because that's where I come from, is that Cincinnati area, and I grew up eating things like Skyline. I have always enjoyed the spices that go into that. That's what I'm going to use. You can spice this however you want. The real key for this recipe is how we get it to be so thick and rich and fatty and protein heavy, and we don't have to use any fillers or junk that would add extra carbohydrates into this to make it thick and rich. And you might not know this, but a lot of the canned chilies or chilies that you get at restaurants, they actually use things like cracker meal or starches, different things that thicken down the broth. And it's really important that you have a way to do this, because if you do what a lot of people suggested the first time I released a chili recipe, and you just cook all of the broth away, a couple of things happen. One, you get a dry texture chili where it's basically just the meat, whatever else you would put in it, and there's no broth, juicy part of it. The other thing that does is it concentrates the beef flavor of this beef broth I'm about to use and the salt, but I want to use those flavors while cooking the chili, because when I have those in there, it actually helps tenderize the protein bonds in the ground beef, which is part of what makes the texture and the juiciness of the meat in the chili what it is. It's really important to be able to do that without overshooting or undershooting the salt content. So I like to be able to season the chili exactly where I want it and then adjust the texture without messing with the salinity and the seasoning concentrations. It makes making the chili the way you want it to taste significantly easier. We can either brown the beef for the chili first and then add broth later, or if you want to do more of the Cincinnati style chili that I like to do, we're actually going to bring the broth and the beef up to temperature together so we don't get any of the browning on the beef. It's just a different way of doing it. You can do it either way. It is entirely up to you. Let's go ahead and get the beef and the broth cooking, and then I'll tell you how we're going to spice the chili to make it her favorite chili. All right, this couldn't be easier. My broth is going in. We can always add more water or broth if we find we need more liquid. Just be careful you don't overshoot it to where you then have to cook a bunch of it off. And I know this looks like a lot, but again, I'm making a triple batch so that we can have it, and so Jay and my brother-in-law Tristan can have this for dinner as well, multiple nights with the brand new baby. The meat goes in with the broth. I think my pan will be just big enough. The beef broth is already somewhat seasoned, but the meat is not. So I'm gonna add some salt on top of the meat, and we can always add a little bit more salt later, but we wanna make sure we have at least some cooking in there with the beef now. Once the salt is on top of the beef, we're gonna turn this on to a medium to medium high heat, and we're gonna start bringing it up to temperature and breaking the meat up inside the broth as it starts to cook. Now this is all room temperature. The beef is actually cold out of the fridge. As this starts to cook, the salt is going to break down the protein bonds. We're gonna get a nice tender bite in the chili. And then when that fat has rendered out, we're gonna use a trick to emulsify that and the broth together to create that thick, rich, unctuous texture. Now, if you're one of those people that doesn't use ground beef, but you use things like steak chunks, other kinds of beef or venison or whatever in your chili, this absolutely will work. Same technique. You can brown the beef before, or you can cook it with the broth however you want. It's entirely up to you. I'm gonna bring it up to a simmer so I know it's cooked through, and then I'm gonna turn off the heat, and we're gonna talk about the next step to season it and then thicken it. Now this is totally optional, but because I'm doing the keto version for my sister-in-law, I'm gonna go ahead and throw in onion. And I'm going to cook this with the beef and the broth so that it gets soft, but we don't put any color on it. That raw onion then being cooked down soft is the flavor that I'm going for. You don't have to do that. It's totally optional. If you're carnivore, obviously don't do that. It's entirely up to you. But I'm gonna go ahead and dump that in, cook that together with the beef and the broth. Another optional item for the keto version of this is a no sugar added tomato sauce. You don't have to use it, but if you want to get a little bit more of that tomato flavor that chili tends to have, this is a great way to do it. This entire can has about 15 net carbs in it, but that's split across 3 batches of chili, all of which have multiple servings. So the amount of carbs this adds is very minute, and it does give a really nice umami flavor. So since it's for my sister-in-law, I'm gonna go ahead and do that more traditional version. If you're carnivore, leave it out. Now that the beef is almost cooked and we're almost up to simmer, I'm gonna go ahead and start adding spices. And this is where you can go a lot of different directions. If you wanna be totally carnivore, you left out the onions, you left out the tomato, use some salt, and you can call it a day. That's totally fine. If you want more of a traditional chili flavor, these are the kinds of things you're normally going to add. I have paprika, chili powder, garlic powder, and some black pepper. And you can modify that and use your own chili recipe however you want. This is the base of what I'm using. But along with this comes a couple of special things. Let me throw these in, stir those together, and then I'm gonna tell you the special ingredients that make this more of a Cincinnati style chili. These are the spices that are a little more unique to the Cincinnati style chili. So I have all the traditional ones in there. I'm also gonna add a little bit of oregano, not too much, but a little bit makes a big difference in this chili. I'm also going to add ground allspice. And while not traditional from the original Cincinnati style chili recipe, it is one of my favorite ways to do this. I'm gonna add some unsweetened cocoa. Now you can also use a square of baking chocolate with no sugar, just 100% cocoa. If you have that, that will also work, but that little bit of chocolate gives a really nice finish to this chili. And I almost forgot the most important seasoning of all of them for Cincinnati style chili, cinnamon. Don't forget the cinnamon. So I'm gonna go ahead and add those for my take on the Cincinnati style chili. We're gonna stir this all together and bring it up to a simmer. Once this has come up to a simmer, I went ahead, turned it off, and I let it settle, and I just skimmed some of the extra fat off of the top. You don't have to do that, but one, for a brand new mom, I don't think she wants excessive amounts of liquid fat that might mess with her stomach. Also, I just don't find the texture of that to be very nice in there. So I went ahead and skimmed off the extra fat from the top. It's already fairly thick, but now I'm gonna show you how we thicken it. And this is in 2 steps. Number 1, we're gonna change the texture of the meat just a little bit. And this is optional, but it's because I like that Cincinnati style chili where it's really smooth. This is up at a simmer. I'm gonna go ahead and stop that, turn the heat off, and we're gonna make the meat a little bit smoother. You can make this chili as smooth or leave it as chunky as you like. I'm gonna use a hand blender, and we're gonna make it kind of a middle of the road. So that's step 1, that makes the chili already thicker as you blend up some of those proteins and make the texture of the meat finer. The other step, and this is why we needed to make sure to turn this off so it is no longer simmering, egg yolks. We're going to use egg yolks to emulsify the fat that cooks from the beef as well as some of the liquid of the broth that is in there. And what that's going to do is create almost like what a custard would be, but we're going to use it as a thickener in the chili instead of using starch or cracker meal or the types of things that a lot of mass-produced chilies out there use. So I'm going to add in egg yolks. This is for a triple batch. I have 9. You can use more if you want it thicker. You can use less if you want it thinner. You can use none at all. It's entirely up to you. But I'm going to go ahead and put these in, stir them in, and then I'm going to blend them in real quick. Then we're going to turn the heat back on, and I'll show you how we make sure it gets nice and thick without getting scrambled egg chunks. The egg yolks are mixed in. I'm gonna go ahead and hit them again with the blender. Not enough to make the meat any smoother, just enough to make sure we have all of those eggs completely combined, and this big pot of chili is hot enough, it's going to actually cook those egg yolks, and they're gonna turn into this beautiful custard texture with that fat and the water of the broth being emulsified together. It's one of the things egg yolks are beautiful at. It makes this chili nice and thick and rich. That is perfect. We are going to now turn the temperature back on, but I'm going to turn it on a medium low, and I'm going to stir constantly as I slowly bring this up to a simmer, so that way it starts to simmer without curdling any of those leftover proteins from the egg yolk that might not be fully cooked just yet. Once it comes up to a simmer, we're going to stir it, make sure everything's good, check the seasoning one more time to make sure it doesn't need any more salt, and it's going to be time to serve. So I gotta tell you guys, be careful when you're stirring that chili when you're simmering it right there at the end, because it'll pop and it'll burn your fingers because of the thick texture. But you kinda can't tell where the broth starts and the meat stops. It makes it thick and rich and juicy on the palate. Give it a try, see what you think.
Man, that is good. It's thick. I love the way you season it. This like Cincinnati style chili. This is delicious. It's just good chili.
Now, how much egg flavor does that have to it?
Oh, none, or else I wouldn't eat it.
Yeah, it doesn't taste like eggs or scrambled eggs if done properly.
I actually did not know that you put eggs in this. There's no taste of that whatsoever. It just tastes like thick, hearty, delicious chili.
You can freeze it. Because those eggs have been simmered, they're not going to cook anymore when you reheat this. So you shouldn't have any issues with textures unless you just didn't get them cooked the first time around. The recipe card with all of the ingredients and the amounts is on my website. That is free. The recipe card page is linked in the description box down below. You can go down there and find it. So are all of my other links, including our private community, the band, and a bunch of other things you might need, gear that I used. It's all down there for you, so go check it out. Make sure to like and subscribe while you're here. We appreciate you guys watching. This is Chris Cooking Nashville, the beautiful Ash Taylor. You guys eat your meat, especially when it's an egg yolk thickened chili form like that. Love your life. We'll see you here in the kitchen for a bunch more recipes, maybe fall-friendly ones like this chili. And if you like my chili thickened with egg yolks this way, you gotta check out this video right over here.
You're fired.
Okay.
JK, you're not fired. This is amazing. Like, holy cow.